My brother's fiancée installed hidden cameras in my house and stole my medications to frame me as unfit for my 4-year-old son. So I did this at their engagement party, and when I showed everyone her text messages, she went silent throwaway for obvious reasons. So I, female, 31, have a 4-year-old son, and I'm trying to figure out if I'm being completely paranoid or if my gut instincts are actually worth something for once. This whole thing happened 3 days ago, and my family is still giving me grief about it. Quick background: I've been divorced for about 2 years now. My ex-husband, let's call him Derek, had this thing where he'd have these friendships with people that I didn't know about until way later. Like he'd be super close with his coworker Sarah, and I'd find out months later that they'd been texting constantly and hanging out after work. Nothing physical that I know of, but it was this whole pattern of him having these secret relationships with women who would act all helpful and sweet to me when I finally met them. It really messed with my head about trusting people's motives, you know? Anyway, my brother Jake, male 29, has been dating this woman, Emma, female 27, for about 8 months now. They got engaged last month, which honestly surprised everyone because, 8 months is pretty fast, right? But Jake's always been the type to want to save his girlfriends. Emma seems different though. She's got her own apartment, decent job at some marketing company, acts really put together. But there's something about her that just, I don't know. She's always asking really specific questions about my life and my son's routine when we're at family stuff. So 3 days ago, I'm getting ready for work. I do evening shifts at a medical office. And my regular babysitter texts me like an hour before I need to leave. Her kid got sick and she can't watch my son, Tommy. I was supposed to cover for a coworker who specifically asked me to take her shift because her mom was having surgery. The overtime would have been really helpful because honestly, money's been tight since the divorce and I needed those extra hours. I was freaking out a little because finding last-minute childcare is basically impossible. So I posted in this local mom's Facebook group asking if anyone had recommendations for backup sitters. I've done this before and usually get nothing useful, but I was desperate. Emma calls me within like 10 minutes. 10 minutes. She's all excited and says she saw my post and would love to watch Tommy. She starts going on about how they could make cookies together and watch his favorite movies, and she even mentions that she knows he likes to have his stuffed elephant when he goes to bed. And that's when I got this weird feeling. Because how does she know about the elephant? We've been to a few family dinners and barbecues, but it's not like she's spent tons of time around Tommy. But she's talking about his bedtime routine like she knows exactly how it goes. So I'm standing there holding my phone, and I start thinking about how she always seems to know little details about stuff I post on social media. Like last month, I posted a picture of Tommy at the playground, and she commented about how he always loves those monkey bars. But I don't think I've ever mentioned that specifically. And when we were at my mom's house for Jake's birthday, she made some comment about how Tommy doesn't like loud noises, which is true. But again, how would she know that? I started feeling really uncomfortable, and I couldn't shake it. It reminded me of those women Derek used to be friends with, who would act like they knew our family better than they should have. Maybe I'm being paranoid, but after everything that happened in my marriage, I've learned to trust my gut when something feels weird. So I told her thanks, but Tommy was actually feeling a little under the weather, and I thought it was better if I stayed home with him. Total lie, obviously. She got really quiet and then said something like, "Oh well, maybe next time," but she sounded hurt or maybe annoyed. It was hard to tell. I ended up calling work and telling them I couldn't make it because my babysitter fell through. Lost a whole day's worth of overtime pay that I really needed. My coworker was understanding, but I felt terrible because she was counting on me. But here's where it gets messy. Emma must have told Jake about the whole thing because he called me yesterday. He was confused and kind of hurt, asking why I wouldn't let his fiancée help when I obviously needed it. He said Emma was really excited to spend time with Tommy and bond with him since she's going to be his aunt soon. I tried to explain that something felt weird without sounding like I was making accusations about his fiancée. What was I supposed to say? She knows too much about my kid's routine, and it reminds me of your brother's sketchy friendships. That sounds insane. Jake got defensive, which he always does when anyone questions his relationship choices, honestly. He He said Emma is great with kids and she's just trying to be part of the family. He made this comment about how I need to give her a chance since she's about to be family, whether I like it or not. The conversation ended weird, and now I feel like everyone thinks I'm being a bitch for no reason. My mom called this morning and made some comment about how Emma seemed really hurt at Sunday dinner and how it's important for Tommy to have good relationships with his uncle's future wife. But I keep thinking about how quickly she responded to my post and how she knew those specific details about Tommy. Am I crazy for thinking that's weird? Like, she's on this local mom's Facebook group, but she doesn't have kids. Why would she even be in there unless she was, I don't know, keeping tabs on me? The thing is, I've been wrong before about people's intentions. After my divorce, I thought everyone was trying to mess with me or had some secret plan. I know that's probably not normal, but I can't help feeling suspicious sometimes. But this feels different. It's not like I think Emma is evil or anything. It's just, why does she know so much about my son? And why was she so eager to babysit? Most people wouldn't volunteer for last-minute childcare with a 4-year-old they barely know. I feel like I'm stuck between trusting my instincts, which have been wrong before, and potentially ruining my relationship with my brother over something that might be completely innocent. Tommy's safety is obviously my top priority, but I also don't want to create family problems over nothing. Am I the idiot for refusing to let my brother's fiancée babysit my son when I really needed the help? Edit. Since so many people are asking about the social media thing, yes, Emma joined our local moms group about 3 months ago. I thought it was weird then too, because like I said, she doesn't have kids. When I asked her about it at a family dinner, she said she wanted to connect with the future family community, which I guess makes sense, but still felt weird to me. A lot of you are saying I should have just explained my concerns directly to Jake, but honestly, he's not great with criticism about his girlfriends. The last time someone in our family, our cousin, made a comment about one of his exes, he didn't talk to her for like 6 months. I was trying to avoid that kind of blow-up. And yes, I realize losing the overtime money was a big deal financially. I'm not rolling in cash here, and every shift matters. But I'd rather struggle with money than have something happen to Tommy because I ignored my gut feeling. Maybe that makes me paranoid, but after everything with my ex, I'd rather be overly cautious than sorry. Now for the first update. Hey Reddit, remember me, the paranoid mom who wouldn't let her brother's fiancée babysit. Well, turns out my weird feelings weren't so weird after all. So it's been like 4 days since my last post, and honestly, I've been going back and forth about whether to update because this whole situation just keeps getting weirder. But I figure you guys deserve to know what happened since so many of you told me to trust my instincts. Yesterday, my brother Jake comes over to return this drill he borrowed from me last month. I know, a month, but whatever, that's just how he is. Emma's with him, but she stays in the car, which I thought was weird, but honestly, I was relieved because things have been awkward since the whole babysitting thing. So Jake's at my front door, and we're just chatting about normal stuff when I hear this screaming from his car, like full volume yelling. Emma's on the phone with someone, and her windows are down, and she's going off about rent increases and how she can't afford anywhere decent in this market, and something about needing to figure this shit out in 3 weeks or we're screwed. Jake looks absolutely mortified, like his face goes completely red and he starts talking really fast about how he needs to get going. But I'm standing there like, 3 weeks? What's happening in 3 weeks? So I just asked him straight up, are you guys having housing problems? And the look on his face, guys, my brother has never been good at lying. He gets this deer in headlights thing going on. He starts doing that thing where he talks too fast and over-explains everything. Apparently, they got a 30-day notice because Emma's credit is temporarily compromised, his words, and their landlord won't renew the lease. From what I could piece together, they got the notice over a week ago, which explains why Emma was panicking about having only 3 weeks left. I'm trying to process this when Emma gets out of the car and just takes the phone from him, just grabs it, and starts talking to me about temporary family arrangements and how families should support each other through hard times. But here's the thing that made my stomach drop. She starts talking about my house like she knows it really well. She brings up my guest room with the separate entrance and how the layout would work well for a young couple just starting out. She even mentions the bathroom down the hall from Tommy's room and how convenient that would be. I mean, when has she been paying that much attention to my house layout? She's been here maybe 3 times for family stuff, and I remember her using the bathroom, but who memorizes floor plans from bathroom trips? She keeps talking about how they could help with childcare and housework in exchange for staying temporarily, and she's looking at me with this expectant smile, obviously this is the perfect solution and I should be grateful for the offer. I'm standing there thinking about my last post and how you guys said she was probably gathering information for a reason, and now I know what the reason was. She wasn't being creepy about Tommy's routine because she wanted to hurt him. She was learning our family stuff because she needed somewhere to live. I told them I needed to think about it, but honestly, I already knew the answer was no. I mean, I barely know this woman, and she's been acting weird around my kid for months. Plus, the whole thing felt really messed up. Jake looked embarrassed, but also kind of desperate. He mentioned that his freelance work has been inconsistent lately, which is code for he's broke. My brother's always been terrible with money. But the whole conversation felt off, After they left, I was feeling really unsettled about the whole thing. I mean, part of me felt bad because family is family, and if they really need help, but then I remembered how weird she'd been about Tommy. Then, today, I get a call from Jessica. Jessica's this family friend who actually introduced Emma to my brother about 8 months ago. She works at the same marketing company as Emma, I think. Jessica calls me, and she sounds really guilty. Really, really guilty. She starts apologizing for oversharing and says she's been feeling terrible about some conversations she had with Emma. Turns out, Emma has been asking Jessica a lot of questions about my divorce. Really specific questions. She wanted to know about the custody schedule, whether Derek pays alimony, whether he still gives a shit about his son, Jessica's words. She even asked if I have any mental health issues that could affect custody. I'm listening to this and my blood is getting colder by the second. Because why would Jake's fiancée need to know about my custody situation? What possible reason could she have for asking about my mental health? Jessica said she thought Emma was just trying to understand family dynamics since she was about to marry into the family. So she answered some questions, thinking she was being helpful. She told Emma about how Derek barely sees Tommy anymore, and how the divorce was messy, and how I've been struggling financially since everything went down. But then, Jessica started feeling weird about it, because Emma kept asking follow-up questions, really detailed stuff about whether Derek would try to change custody if my living situation changed, or if he'd care if other people were around Tommy regularly. Jessica said something that really stuck with me. She said Emma seemed to already know a lot about my situation before she asked questions, she was confirming information she already had, rather than learning new stuff. I asked Jessica what she meant, and she said Emma would make comments about Derek seeming like the type who wouldn't fight for more custody, or how she figured I was probably dealing with money stress. She already had opinions formed. After I hung up with Jessica, I just sat in my car in my driveway for 20 minutes trying to process everything. This woman has been learning about my family situation for months. She knows about Tommy's routine, about my house layout, about my financial problems, about my custody arrangement, and now she needs somewhere to live. I keep thinking about what you guys said in my last post about trusting my gut. My gut was telling me something was off about how much she knew about Tommy. Turns out my gut was right, just not in the way I expected. I don't think she wanted to hurt Tommy. I think she wanted to move into our lives. Literally move in. I called my mom to kind of process all this. Probably a mistake. And guess what? My mom has known about Emma's housing challenges for weeks. She didn't say anything because she didn't want to meddle, but she mentioned that Emma has been evicted before and has credit issues from her early 20s. So everyone in my family knew this was coming except me. And Emma has been learning everything she could about my situation so she could be the perfect temporary roommate. I feel like such an idiot for not seeing this earlier, but also kind of proud of myself for trusting my instincts even when I couldn't explain why something felt wrong. Jake texted me tonight asking if I'd thought about their proposal. I haven't responded yet because honestly, I don't know what to say. How do you tell your brother that his fiancée has been essentially stalking your family situation? I know I'm not letting them move in. That's not even a question anymore. But I'm worried about what this means for my relationship with Jake. He's already defensive about Emma, and now I have to basically tell him she's been lying to him about why she was so interested in babysitting Tommy. This whole thing is just a lot. I'm grateful that my paranoid instincts were actually protecting us, but I'm also really disturbed by how planned out this all was. Anyway, thanks again for encouraging me to trust my gut. You guys were right that something weird was going on, even if none of us guessed what it actually was. Edit 1. For those asking if I'm going to tell Jake about the Jessica conversation, I honestly don't know. He gets really defensive when anyone criticizes Emma, and I'm worried he'll just think I'm trying to sabotage their relationship. But he deserves to know she's been gathering information about our family behind his back. 2. A few people are asking about the timing of the eviction notice versus when she started being weird about Tommy. Looking back, she'd been making odd comments for months, but her questions became much more detailed and frequent around the time she would have gotten the notice. I think she was always gathering information, but the housing crisis made her more focused about it. Now for the second update. Things got so much worse, and I literally can't even process everything that happened. You guys were right about trusting my gut, but holy shit, none of us saw this coming. Okay, so after my last post where I found out about Emma's housing situation and all the weird questions she'd been asking Jessica, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like I kept replaying the conversation, and something was still bothering me, but I couldn't figure out what. So yesterday, I called Jessica back. I know, probably should have left it alone, but I needed to understand exactly what Emma had been asking about my divorce. Jessica sounded weird when I called though, like nervous or something. I asked her to be really specific about what Emma wanted to know about Derek, and that's when things got, I can't even. Jessica starts telling me how Emma seemed to already know stuff about Derek's personality before Jessica mentioned anything. Like Emma would make comments about how, yeah, he always does that, when Jessica would describe something Derek did during our divorce. I'm like, how the hell would she know what Derek always does? And Jessica gets really quiet. Then she tells me that Emma had casually mentioned they briefly dated years ago, but Jessica didn't think it was important enough to bring up. I swear to God, I almost dropped my phone. I'm like, when did they date? And Jessica's all vague about it, but from what I could piece together, it was right before Derek proposed to me, which would have been like 6 years ago. But Jessica said Emma had brought up reconnecting with him recently during the divorce proceedings. I hung up and just sat there for probably 20 minutes trying to wrap my head around this. My brother's fiancée used to hook up with my ex-husband, the same ex-husband who had all those secret friendships with women, and she never mentioned this to anyone. And now she's been watching my life and my kids' routine for months while needing somewhere to live. But wait, it gets worse. I started thinking about what I'd mentioned to Jessica about Emma knowing my house layout so well and how she'd made those comments about Tommy's routine. Now, with this new information about her dating Derek, I realized I needed to understand just how much access she might have had. So I decided to do a thorough check of my house. I felt completely insane doing this, but after everything that's happened, I figured I needed to know for sure. I found a small recording device taped under my living room side table, a fucking recording device. It was tiny and black, and I never would have seen it if I wasn't specifically looking. I'm shaking at this point because who does that? I kept searching and checked my prescription bottles. My bottle of Ativan was missing exactly 5 pills since Emma's last visit when she helped me clean up after Tommy spilled juice all over the kitchen. She's been stealing my medication and recording my conversations in my own house. I literally cannot believe this is my actual life right now. I called my mom because I didn't know what else to do and told her everything about the ex-husband connection, about the recording device, about the missing pills. My mom gets really quiet and then tells me this is way worse than the housing problems she mentioned. She thinks we need to tell the family about this tonight at the party. So I went to the party. It was at my Aunt Karen's house, and pretty much our whole extended family was there. Emma was wearing this white dress, not technically a wedding dress, but close enough to be weird, and acting all sweet and excited about wedding planning. I waited until I was talking to my aunt near the food table and casually mentioned how I just discovered this weird coincidence about Emma having dated my ex-husband before. I wasn't trying to start trouble, just sharing information that seemed relevant, you know? My aunt's eyes got huge, and she immediately went to tell my mom about this strange connection. While they're talking, my cousin overhears and mentions how Emma takes photos of everything during family visits. Like literally everything. She'll take pictures of rooms and furniture, and even things like our medicine cabinet when she's fixing her makeup. My mom connects this to all the questions Jessica mentioned, and my uncle joins the conversation talking about how Emma always seems to be listening in on other people's phone calls. Like she'll position herself close enough to hear when someone's talking privately. I'm not saying anything else at this point, because honestly, the information is spreading on its own. Multiple conversations are happening around the party about timing that doesn't add up and weird things people had noticed but never talked about. Then Jake overhears a group of family members discussing the timeline of when Emma dated Derek versus when Derek and I got engaged. I see him get this confused look on his face, and he quietly pulls Emma aside. Through the kitchen window, I can see them talking, and Jake keeps showing her something on his phone while she gets more and more defensive. Her body language completely changes, and she starts gesturing frantically like she's trying to explain something. After like 15 minutes, they come back inside, but Emma looks completely different. She's pale and quiet and keeps saying she has a sudden headache. She barely talks to anyone else, and they leave early after she couldn't give straight answers when people ask casual questions about how she met Derek. Jake looked, I don't even know how to describe it, confused and angry and embarrassed all at the same time. My mom called me this morning with an update, and apparently last night was just the beginning. Jake spent the whole night going through Emma's phone and social media after the party. Turns out, she'd been screenshotting my Facebook posts for months, saving photos of my house, and researching custody laws in our state. When Jake confronted her with specific evidence, her explanations kept changing. First, she said she was just trying to understand family dynamics. Then she claimed she was worried about Tommy's safety. Then she said she wanted to be prepared in case I needed help with legal stuff. But my mom said Jake finally connected all the family concerns with his own doubts that he'd been ignoring. Apparently, they've been breaking up and getting back together constantly, but he never told any of us about the relationship problems. The engagement is postponed indefinitely while they work through some issues. But my mom said Jake privately told her he's done with the relationship. He feels completely manipulated and stupid for not seeing what was happening. I don't even know how I feel. Relieved that my instincts were right, but also really disturbed by how weird everything was. She wasn't just nosy or overly interested in our family. She was actively gathering information and evidence for God knows what purpose. Part of me wonders if she wanted to use the custody stuff against me somehow, like if I hadn't been cooperative about letting them move in, or if things went wrong with their living situation. The medication theft especially freaks me out because that's exactly the kind of thing that could look bad in a custody dispute. My brother and I haven't talked directly since the party, but my mom says he's embarrassed and angry at himself for not listening when people tried to warn him. Apparently, our cousin tried to bring up concerns months ago, but he shut down the conversation. I know I should probably feel bad for Jake because he got manipulated too, but honestly right now, I'm just focused on the fact that my house was bugged and my medication was stolen. Like, what if I hadn't figured this out? What if they had moved in? I've been going through my house again to make sure there aren't any other devices, and I'm getting my locks changed tomorrow. I also called my doctor about the missing anxiety medication because apparently you're supposed to report when controlled substances go missing. This whole situation has made me realize how important it is to trust your gut even when you can't explain why something feels wrong. If I had let Emma babysit Tommy, or if I had agreed to let them move in, I don't even want to think about what other information she would have gathered. Anyway, thanks again for encouraging me to trust my instincts. You guys probably saved me and Tommy from a much worse situation. I know this update is all over the place, but I'm still processing everything. It's been a really intense few days, and I keep remembering more weird things Emma did that make sense now. I'll probably update again once I have a better handle on what the legal implications are for the recording device and medication theft. Right now, I just want to focus on making sure Tommy and I are safe and that our house is actually private again. Edit. For everyone asking about pressing charges, I'm meeting with a lawyer next week to understand my options. The recording device thing especially seems like it might be illegal, but I want to get proper legal advice before deciding what to do. Also, yes, I'm changing all my social media privacy settings and blocking Emma from everything. I can't believe I have to do this, but here we are.